that shocked public opinion occurred in the first week of July 1947 and involved the U.S. military. Finding the wreckage of a crashed flying saucer at a livestock ranch located northwest of the town of Roosevelt. Witnesses were military personnel who personally witnessed the incident, including 2 senior generals. Confirmed that the materials they recovered were not of earthly origin. Furthermore, inside the flying saucer were 3 aliens and their fate was detailed by a U.S. military nurse, shocking the world after more than half a century of secrecy. On January 12, 1994, Congressman Stephen Schiff, representing the city of Albuquerque, New Mexico, told the press that he had been obstructed by the U.S. Department of Defense when requesting on behalf of constituents and witnesses to disclose information related to the 1947 event in Roosevelt. Wanting to investigate this issue further, Congressman Schiff called the Defense Department's silence surprising. Specific information about finding fragments of a crashed flying saucer in Roosevelt and related developments was widely published in the mass media at that time. A few years earlier, investigators had also found a copy of the U.S. military law yearbook recording the Roosevelt incident. Based on this document, they located eyewitnesses currently scattered across the United States. Press information showed that during late June and early July 1947, numerous UFO reports appeared throughout the U.S. and Canada. Many of these reports came from credible witnesses such as pilots and professional observers. And one morning in the first week of July 1947, Mac Brazel, a livestock rancher in New Mexico, while riding out to check his fences after a terrible stormy night, discovered many unusual fragments. They formed a shallow circular trench over 100 meters long and were scattered over a large area. Some fragments had strange physical properties. After picking up a few pieces to show his neighbors Floyd and Loretta Proctor, Brazel drove into the town of Roswell and met Sheriff George Wilcox. Sheriff Wilcox then notified the authorities at the Roswell Army Airfield and with the assistance of his deputies, he went to the scene to investigate the matter. Shortly after being notified, the military dispatched a force to the scene to cordon off the entire area for several days and recover the fragments. These fragments were taken to Roswell Army Airfield and transported by B-29 and C-54 transport aircraft to Wright Field in Dayton, Ohio for analysis. Roswell Army Airfield was the home base of the 509th Bomb Group. This was the elite group, the world's only atomic bomb group. On the morning of July 8, 1947, Colonel William Blanchard, commander of the 509th Group, issued a press release confirming that the wreckage of a crashed flying disc had been recovered. This announcement was immediately transmitted by telephone to appear on the front pages of over 30 newspapers published that afternoon. Just a few hours later, a second press release was issued from the office of General Roger Ramey, commander of the 8th Air Force at Fort Worth Army Airfield in Texas. This announcement retracted the initial statement and claimed that Colonel Blanchard and officers of the 509th Bomb Group in Roswell had made a foolish mistake by misidentifying fragments of a weather balloon and its radar reflector as wreckage from a crashed flying disc. It appeared the U.S. government wanted to redirect public opinion and conceal what had happened in the small town of Roswell. Evidence shows there were testimonies from many military personnel and civilians. Those directly involved in this incident confirmed that the press release about the flying disc crash issued by Colonel William Blanchard of the 509th Bomb Group in Roswell was true. While the second announcement about the weather balloon crash was merely a fabricated story that the U.S. government hastily put out to hide the truth, those who knew and worked with Blanchard described him as a determined, serious, practical man, not someone who would make himself and the Air Force look foolish. In other words, if Blanchard issued a press release announcing a flying disc crash, then that was indeed the case. Colonel Blanchard later continued to advance and was promoted to general, becoming deputy commander of the U.S. Air Force. The first witness investigators approached was very willing to testify and allowed use of his name, Lieutenant Colonel Jesse Marcel, intelligence officer of the 509th Bomb Group in Roswell. He was a capable man and one of the first two military officers at the flying disc crash site. In a filmed interview in 1979, Jesse Marcel revealed, "It was not a weather balloon, nor an airplane or a missile. The material found at the scene had a strange property. It wouldn't burn, was lightweight, very thin, no thicker than the foil inside cigarette packages. We even tried hitting it with a sledgehammer, but it wouldn't." These fragments, according to his account, were not made from materials originating from our Earth. On the way back to base, he stopped at his home and showed these unusual fragments to his wife and 11-year-old son. A small I-beam fragment had strange hieroglyphic-like symbols on its surface. His son, Dr. Jesse Marcel Jr., now a physician and also an excellent helicopter pilot for the National Guard, still remembers that event clearly. In 1947, the late General Thomas Dubose, then just a colonel and chief of staff under General Roger Ramey at the 8th Air Force Headquarters in Fort Worth, Texas. Before his death in 1992, General Dubois revealed that he was the one who received the call from General Clement McMullen at Andrews Air Base in Washington. This commander ordered him to conceal information related to the incident by fabricating another story to mislead the press and the public. In a 1990 interview, retired General Arthur E. Edison, who was then just a lieutenant colonel stationed at Wright Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, in July 1947, revealed, "Various tests were conducted, including chemical analysis, stress tests, compression, bending, and the fragments were sent to the materials laboratory for examination. Some fragments could be easily torn or deformed, but others, although very thin, were extremely hard and could not be dented with a hammer. Those analyzing this strange material all agreed that they were fragments from outer space." Evidence from Glenn Dennis also supports the truth about the UFO crash in Roswell. He still lives in Roswell, New Mexico, and is a fairly well-known businessman. In 1947, Glenn Dennis worked at the Pauley's funeral home. This company had a contract to provide funeral and emergency services for Roswell Airfield. One afternoon, he received several calls from the funeral officer at the base, asking if there were any small glass coffins available. This person also asked him about how to preserve bodies that had been exposed to the environment for several days. That afternoon, Glenn Dennis went to the military hospital for some reason. From the back door of the building, he saw two military personnel from the laboratory. They were carrying strange objects with peculiar symbols on the surface. As soon as he entered the military hospital, he immediately encountered a nurse. When he tried to talk to her for a moment, military police spotted him and kicked him out of the building. The next day, Glenn Dennis met the nurse again at the officers' club in the city. She revealed what had happened in the military hospital. She was originally a devout, calm, and composed person. But at that time, she looked as if she had just emerged from hell, completely distraught. The nurse told Glenn Dennis that he wouldn't believe what had happened. "I had never seen anything so horrifying." He immediately tried to calm the girl. "You're a nurse, your daily work might expose you to many things. Perhaps you're not used to it yet." But the nurse insisted that these were not ordinary things. The nurse then demanded that Glenn Dennis swear that he would never reveal her name or anything that could get her into trouble. "What you? Why are you making me swear? What happened?" The nurse carefully looked around to ensure no one was listening. Then, she said that her superiors ordered her into a secret room to assist two doctors, who were handling several small non-human bodies. The scene before her eyes was the most horrifying thing she had ever seen. The two doctors that were said to be performing preliminary autopsies on these bodies. She mentioned 3 horrifying bodies, one of which was not intact. The other 2 bodies were severely injured, with many parts fragmented, allowing her to clearly recognize the anatomical differences from humans. Moreover, she even sketched on a napkin the shapes of individual parts of these creatures. Glenn Dennis never saw that nurse again afterward. 2 days later, she was urgently transferred to work in England. Recent researchers revealed that the main part of the UFO crashed at a cattle ranch in the Roswell area. According to witness accounts, this was also where the alien bodies were found. Most witnesses at this second location did not want to reveal their identities for fear of government retaliation. A reputable law firm recently won the right to provide legal protection for any witnesses willing to come forward publicly. Lawyers from this firm have met with some witnesses in the Roswell incident. Besides Glenn Dennis, other witnesses were also threatened or warned. According to the family of Sheriff Will Cassie, the military warned him and his entire family that their lives would be threatened if he revealed what he had witnessed. The owner of the cattle ranch was the first to discover the crashed UFO wreckage. Matt Rizzo was detained by the military for nearly a week and was only released after pledging absolute secrecy. He never mentioned the incident again, even to his family members. A few months after the UFO crash, the son of rancher Bill Rizzo found and collected some debris from the crashed flying saucer. He secretly stored them in an old cigar box, but the military later discovered and confiscated them. The Roswell incident was meticulously documented. However, the question arises as to why the media was not enthusiastic about this event. There are 2 possible reasons to explain that. The first is negative thinking. By nature, humans tend to oppose any phenomenon that challenges their previous perception of the real world. In most cases, such an attitude satisfies us and is called skepticism. In other cases, it can make knowledgeable people unwilling to consider evidence, especially when that evidence seems to challenge human understanding. The second and more harmful cause is the attitude of ridicule. For a long time, UFOs have been associated with strange stories and hoaxes. People often categorize UFO stories alongside ghosts, mysticism, magic, and other supernatural phenomena. Therefore, stories related to UFOs rarely make people believe they're true. As a result, the media rarely touches on this field. Very few newspapers research it seriously or carefully, because no one wants to become a target of ridicule. Meanwhile, relevant agencies, such as the CIA, have refused to cooperate with investigators. When searching for documents about the Roswell incident or related to UFOs through the Freedom of Information Act, researchers consistently encounter obstacles. They are told that such documents do not exist or cannot be disclosed for national security reasons. The few documents that are made public are often redacted to the point of being meaningless. In contrast, in 1991, the Belgian Ministry of Defense released 2 tapes recorded by radar on 2 of its Air Force F-16s while chasing a UFO. This unidentified flying object was detected by 4 ground radar stations. Additionally, many civilians and police officers also witnessed it. The tape immediately attracted public attention. It showed the UFO's incredible ability to change altitude and speed. At one point, people hoped that US policy would change. That moment came when Trimikata was elected president in 1976. In October 1969, while still governor of Georgia, Trimicata mentioned a UFO sighting case. Later, in 1976, as a presidential candidate, he made a pledge. "If I become president, I will make all information about UFOs that this country has available to the public and scientists." However, after assuming the presidency, he never mentioned the issue again. If he had no information to disclose, why didn't he say so to fulfill his commitment to voters? Why does the US government insist that there is nothing important in the UFO phenomenon? And why they want to hide evidence of extraterrestrial civilization remains a matter of speculation. The reason given to explain this action is that the government fears public chaos, national security issues, and concerns about offending religious groups. Despite the indifference of the media and contrary to the desire of some US officials to guide public opinion, the Roswell incident is not a product of imagination or modern folklore. It involves real people and a real event. Colonel William Blanchett, who issued the press release about the incident, was not someone easily mistaken. He continued to advance in his career and was promoted to the highest peacetime rank in the US military. Other witnesses, including retired generals, all affirmed that Blanchett's press release was accurate and the debris recovered at Roswell was of extraterrestrial origin. To this day, space researchers still believe that whether extraterrestrial life exists is a major unanswered question. Because what humans know about the universe is like a grain of sand, while what is unknown is a vast desert. Therefore, stories about UFOs will remain full of mystery.